Hey guys, it's Neka Agnes Washiku on Podcast Diaries number 37, part 2. And this is just the upload, a follow-up upload from the past upload. You know, there's a few things that I wanted to correct and there's a few things I want to address. But mainly today it's going to be a life update. Yes, and within this short amount of time that I have, I'm going to try to crunch everything in. You know, I don't want it to be a super long podcast because the last one is like about almost 30 minutes long. So this one, we're going to try to condense it down. But yes, you know, get you guys out. If you guys smoke some weed, get you some weed. Smoke some weed while you're listening. Get you some wine. Get you some, tequila, whatever it is, your choice. Or you could just, chill. You don't got to do none of that. But, as you guys know, my podcast diaries are for the grown and sexy. The grown people who deal with everyday life. The grown people who deal with stuff every single day. And it's for a podcast for grown people who just don't mind hearing the real. And, sometimes you might need to spark you up a joint or a blunt. You might want to sit around with your girls, or you might want to be by yourself and drink you some wine, a glass of wine. Or you might be with your man. You might want to, drink you some tequila with your man. You know what I'm saying? Or, like I said, you might be just by yourself. But like I said, this is part 2 and it's a life update, okay? So in the previous podcast, I said something about how, 12 months pregnant. That was an error, guys. I apologize. I don't mean to sound unprofessional, but I caught that. And I'm like, man, I said 12 months pregnant. I meant to say 9 months pregnant. There's no way I want to get pregnant for 9 months for a man just so that he can up and disappear. Who wants to really deal with that? Okay, so that was one thing I had to address. The next thing that I wanted to address was, I talked about on my last podcast that I wasn't going to send any pictures. I wasn't going to send any pictures to men anymore. And the reason being is because, nowadays you don't really know what people are going to do with your images. You don't know what their true intentions are. You don't know what they're going to do with those images. You don't know if they're going to try to sell them for money. You don't know if they're going to send it to someone else. You just don't know. Sometimes people do witchcraft with your pictures. You just really don't know what our intentions are, what they're going to do with your videos and pictures. So I took it upon myself and I went ahead and sent some pictures and even a video. Nothing, too much sexual in nature. It wasn't anything where I was naked or anything like that. It wasn't no nudes. It was mainly a picture of my face. It was just to show him how creative I am with, with art and stuff. And if you guys really are dedicated to my podcast channel, if you click on Reels or short videos, where you can watch short videos and Reels and the shorts, you will see a bunch of my shorts. I have a bunch of shorts. Videos, a bunch of AI shorts, stuff that I created on my own time, because I'm really big on art. I'm really interested in art and stuff. And lately I have been working on AI stuff. So, it's nothing that I'm hiding from you guys. As you know, if you really are dedicated to my channel like that, you'll see all my AI shorts. I have AI videos. I have different AI, I have short series. I have short, little clips that I have, and within these clips, I have little short series and these clips, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. I'm talking about real life series that I created in my head. Like it was more so a thought that I had in my head. And then I went to the AI software and created those thoughts out. I used the AI tools to create my imagination. So it's amazing what you can do with your imagination. Hopefully when we use our imagination, we use it for the right things. And I believe I am. A lot of people might not really like all my AI art, but, a lot of it is imagination, just me imagining things in my mind and, just creating it and, showing the whole world that, what goes on in my head sometimes, the things that I think about sometimes. Okay, so that's little short things. So, guys, check out my shorts. Go to my shorts, check them out, like, comment, subscribe. Like my stuff. Don't just look at the videos. Don't just look at them and stare at them. Actually watch them. And if you like it, click the like button. And if you really, fucking with it, comment. Say that you like it, There's a few comments on there, people making slick comments. And it's like, I just laugh it off. I don't even get offended. Then you got some nice people on there who say my stuff is fire. I appreciate that. Because that's stuff that I really enjoy doing. Like I really enjoy creating AI shorts and I really enjoy these podcasts.
procurement managers, Granger is the go-to partner that
I'm gonna cut it to commercial.
for patients.
I apologize for that.
To manage orders and deliveries from multiple suppliers, Granger offers everything in one place.
Okay, now we're back. Okay, guys, so my other topic that I wanted to talk to you guys about is casual sex. Man. So, in podcast 37, I talked a lot about how I didn't agree with casual sex and how I didn't really understand why people would do that. And then I even talked about, cheaters and all types of stuff. And, I'm going to be very honest with you guys. Here's a life update. I recanted. Yes, I did, guys. I don't want to be fake on here. I don't want to be a hypocrite on here. I want you guys to get the real me, but only give you what I want to give you. I only tell people what I want to tell them. I only share with people what I want to share with them, with my life. And I don't want you guys to ever feel like, oh, well, in real life, she's not even following the things that she's telling us about on the podcast. And that's not true, because at the same time, I'm human. At that time when I had uploaded that podcast, I really was dealing with those things at that time. Now it's almost a whole year later. It's literally almost a whole year later since I recorded that podcast. I uploaded it today, but I recorded that podcast it'll be almost a year in June this year. It'll be a year that that it's been since I've recorded, not uploaded, but recorded that podcast. And so, guys, things have happened to me since that last podcast. The last podcast where I mentioned I didn't care. I didn't care about what, people thought about me in regards to not really agreeing to my discretion when it comes to, the opposite sex, when it comes to dating and, relationships and, sex, period. People like to judge you, and, a lot of times people are afraid of judgment, so they don't live their true self. They don't live who they don't do things because they want to do them. They do things because they want to impress other people. And so I would like to just, talk a little bit about that briefly. As we're like literally 8 minutes in now, and I really wanted to share with you guys that since I recorded that last podcast, a lot of things have happened to me. I've encountered a few people in the city that I currently reside in, and a few of these people have taught me a lesson, have taught me a lot about people, and it has also taught me not to, I've never really trusted people like that anyway. I've never really trusted people like that. I've always had that lack of trust towards people. But now, after everything that has happened to me thus far, my opinion has changed. I think it's okay. And I don't mean it in a sense that, I do understand it's a sin against God to have casual sex, to sleep with someone that you're not married to. I understand that. And this is where it becomes complicated. I don't condone, because this podcast is not for kids. So if you got kids that listen to this podcast, that's on you. That's not my problem. That you need to just keep in mind that my podcast is not for little kids. This podcast is for grown people who have dealt with the same things that I have dealt with or are currently dealing with it. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to say is that basically, my opinion has changed about it. I'm not condoning casual sex. I feel like if a woman is going to have casual sex, I feel like she needs to have casual sex with someone that she is very, she's known for a few years. I feel like it should be someone that she's known for a few years. It should be someone that she's established a relationship with, and that you both need to have an agreement. I believe in my previous podcast, I made a comment about that. You know, I mentioned that if you are going to have casual sex, make sure you both are on the same page. Make sure you both understand, okay, there's no commitment here. We're not committing to each other, but we still want to interact with each other and engage with each other in a sexual manner. But, you know, we both don't feel like we're compatible as far as relationship wise, but we feel sexually compatible with each other. Whatever conversations you might have with this other grown person, you know, when you have this conversation, make sure you both have that same mindset. Make sure you both have that same agreement. Like, okay, look, I like you, you like me, or, you know, I don't see how it could be love, because, you know, love is not casual sex. So I don't know. But I'm just going to say this, you know, however you have the conversation with that individual. Okay, we both really like each other. We've known each other for a while. You know, if we want to keep doing this, we both have to have boundaries set. Meaning you can't dip your dick off in another woman while you're still dipping it off in me. And same thing with, you know, the woman. Like, the woman has to, you know, make it in a way, you know, make the man feel comfortable enough to want to, you know, do things for her, or want to, you know, interact with her in that type of intimate way. Because a lot of times men, you know, a lot of men are different than women. Like, you know, a man can sleep with you and he can get over you, and he can get over it within possibly hours, you know, and they move on quick. But here's the thing with women, because it's, you know, soul ties involved, you just have to be very careful with who you attach yourself to. And I mentioned that before in other podcasts. Be careful who you attach yourself to. If you're going to attach yourself to a man casually, make sure it's a man that you don't mind having a baby by. And what I mean is, you have to be very strategic, like how you think about things. Like, you know, when you enter this relationship with this man, whether it's platonic or you guys are just friends, but you have a sexual attraction to each other, but you don't see each other together, you have to make sure that you strategically think things out. You know, it's not really the time and place to be, you know, free-spirited. You can be free-spirited, you know, once in a while, but being free-spirited all the time, like, that can give you, you can catch an STD like that. You can get you can have an unwanted baby like that. So, yeah, guys, but, you know, I was going to make a story time about this guy that I met, and come to find out he was a crackhead. But I'm not going to go into detail about that, because I really don't want to put his business out there too much. But not only did I find out that he was abusing drugs like that, he also was on the down low. I don't want to say was. Hopefully he's, you know, changed his ways, but he was on a down low. So, you know, women, we just have to be very careful who we attach ourselves to. So, like I said, I've been through a few things lately since the last podcast that I recorded, and it has changed my perspective on life. It has changed my perspective on men. I don't even really see men the same anymore. You know, I just don't see men the same anymore at all. Like, I don't see, you know, I don't look at men like, you know, how we're supposed to look at men like they're gods, or like, you know, I just don't look at men like that anymore. I don't see men in that light anymore because of different things that I have encountered. I mean, it's been situations where I'm like, have the roles really changed? So much so that there are men out there who are so comfortable. They are so comfortable with you taking out the trash. They are so comfortable with watching you struggle. I mean, they know that you might need gas money and they won't give you gas money. Or they know that you need your car fixed and they won't get your car fixed. Or they know that you might need a ride somewhere. They know that you might need money, or you need something. And as a man, you just won't do it because you just want to be, because you have some type of malice or anger towards, or you have some type of grudge, you know, or you just might feel like you're just too good. You might feel like you look better than her. Like, I can't deal with a man like that. I can't deal with men who think that they look better than you. To me, it's giving homosexual vibes. And mind you, I don't have a problem with homosexuals. I don't. You know, be you. Be who you really are. But what I'm saying is, I have a problem with men who pretend to like women, but deep down inside, deep down inside, he really likes men. And it's like, like I said, be yourself, but not at the expense where you're shrinking yourself and to someone else that you're not. And then not only that, you're putting yourself in jeopardy. You're putting her in jeopardy. The woman that you claim that you like, you're putting her life in jeopardy. It's a lot of things that you're, putting in jeopardy, like your life, your health, her life, and it just makes no sense to me. So with that being said, my perspective on relationships have changed. At one point I was so against a man having multiple girlfriends or having multiple wives. Now I'm not against it. I'm just not against it at all. I'm not against that poly life. You know why I'm not against it? Because when you live in a city where most of the very attractive men are either gay, on the down low, or in a relationship, it's very hard to date. It's very, very difficult to date in a city where most of the attractive men, like I said, are taken or gay. So what do you do? What do you do in a situation like that? What do you do in a situation where you live in a city where the majority are predominantly the men that are your type? Let me just put it like that, because everyone has a type and a preference. The men that I prefer are either in a relationship or they might be gay. And the reason why I say I don't prefer gay men, I don't prefer gay men at all. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is, if a woman has a preference, if she's attracted to men, if she's attracted to attractive men, like, you know what I'm saying? Or there's a specific type that you have. And that specific type is always in a situation where the situation with that specific type is always either married or, I'll put it like this, without putting my business out there too much, without saying too much of what I like, because that's a mistake that a lot of people make. They verbalize or they vocalize who they like, what they like, and it's okay. You don't have to tell people that. I don't need to know what your type is all the time. Like, people don't really need to know what you like. Sometimes you make people wonder what you like. Make people, guess. People don't need to know everything about what you like, because a lot of times when you share too much of what you like, people like to be very evil, or not even the word evil, they like to be very petty, and they like to just do certain things to kind of hinder you. Like, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but I feel like I don't know for a fact, I haven't looked this up and found this as a fact, but I feel like there's certain agencies that are out here actively trying to keep black women single. And as a black woman, I believe that there's agencies out here that are actively doing certain things to keep black women single. And one way you can keep a black woman single is if she keeps running into gay men. He doesn't want her. She can't be with him. You know what I'm saying? Even if he's a good man, she can't be with him because he's gay. He doesn't want to be with her like that for real. Or she might encounter a man. He's still a good man, but he's in a relationship. He's married. What do you do as a woman? Like, what do you really do? Are you supposed to be by yourself forever or settle? A woman should never settle. A woman should never settle being with someone that she's not compatible with. If you know you're not compatible with this man, don't ever settle and be with this man. Like, ever. I wouldn't even condone it, because I wouldn't do it. I would never settle for a man that I know for a fact is not good for me. Like, I would never be with a man that's not conducive to my life or conducive to my mental health. So to make sense of this, is what I'm trying to say is my perspective on that has changed. And why it has changed is because if you have a preference or a type of a man that you want to be with, that you can see yourself with, whatever that list that you wrote out. Because remember, the Bible, granted, this is not, during the biblical times. I do understand, but At one point, men had multiple wives, but I feel like in this time period, if a man is to have multiple wives, he needs to be financially stable. He needs to be mentally, stable. He needs to be someone that like actually likes women. Like he cares about women. Like he's good. He has a good heart. He has a good heart. He's kind. He's good to women. You know what I'm saying? All women, and I don't mean good to all women. Meaning like he's sleeping with them. I mean like he actually genuinely cares about women like that for real. He, stuff like that. That's a good man. You can meet a man like that, but he might be in a relationship, and he might be a cheater because he's obviously interacting with you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, does it make him a bad person that he interacted with you and he's married or in a relationship? No. But then you have to put yourself in the woman's shoes. Like, man, if it was me, would I want my husband, interacting with other women? Would I want my husband cheating on me with other women? It just goes back to the fact that you have to have a specific perspective on life. Like my perspective on stuff like that now is, okay, it's okay. I think a man, if he's financially stable and if he's he's mentally stable and he's emotionally intelligent, I feel like it's okay for him to have multiple wives. It's okay. Especially if he's God-fearing. If he's God-fearing and he is emotionally stable, emotionally intelligent, financially stable. That's the most important thing, financially stable. Because I feel like if a man doesn't have money like that, he is not going to be able to satisfy multiple women. So yeah, if I was to meet a man tomorrow and he said, I'm looking for a second wife. Me and my wife, I have a wife, and me and my wife, we're looking for someone else to join our union. Granted, you legally can't do that. You legally cannot do that. But would I mind being in a poly relationship? No, I wouldn't mind. I told you guys this is a life update. This is a life update. In my life update, my mindset definitely has changed. I feel like if you want to have casual sex, you need to have casual sex with a man that is emotionally intelligent, with a man that is financially stable, with a man that has a good heart. And you have to have an agreement with this man. Make sure that you and this man have this agreement. Make sure you both have an agreement, like, okay, if we're both sleeping with each other, especially if I don't know if you, however, some people, they don't use contraceptives. So if you're not using contraceptives and, that's why you have to have that mindset, like, okay, well, I don't mind being pregnant. That's just how you have to think as a grown-ass woman. I don't mind getting pregnant by him, but at the same time, I don't want a baby out of wedlock. But you have to just, like I said, I don't condone, having casual sex. I'm not pushing that out there. I'm just saying if you're going to do it, make sure you do it in a way where it's not going to affect you mentally. And it's not going to affect you mentally if you and this other individual have an agreement and you stick to that agreement. You have to be strategic sometimes when it comes to stuff like that. And that even with the situation with, the poly relationship, when I'm one man and two women, it's okay. If you and this woman, if this woman met you and she's okay with her husband having a second woman, some women are okay with that. Unfortunately, that's just how life is. Some women are okay with their man having another woman. I'm not talking about the men that sneak around on their husband, on their wife, or women that sneak around on their husband. I'm talking about the man is honest with you from the beginning about his wife or his girlfriend. He's telling you that he's looking for someone, a second partner or second, relationship, somebody that he, another companion, somebody he could be with, second person he could be with. And would you like to join? It's all about the conversation, how the conversation goes. It's all about the agreement, It's all about, how you feel about this man, I don't, like I said, I'm not condoning, cheating. I'm not condoning fornication. I'm not condoning what's the exact word I'm looking for? I don't condone people cheating on their spouse or their girlfriend or committing adultery. That's the word I'm looking for. I don't condone committing adultery. It's not good. But however, I do feel like if that man, like I said, he's mentally intelligent, mentally stable, emotionally intelligent, and financially stable, then it's okay. I wouldn't mind being with a man that has a girlfriend or wife. And the reason why I say that is because, and there has to be, mind you, I'm not talking about the sneaking off. I'm talking about there's an agreement. She knows about me and I know about her. Not just me knowing about his wife or just knowing about his girlfriend. No, I mean, she knows about me and I know about her. We don't necessarily have to be friends, but we know about each other and we know that we're with the same man. And we have this agreement like, okay, well, if you and him are going to be together, you can't be with anybody else because now you're bringing other people into our relationship. I'm not talking about swinging. That's a whole nother topic because people swing. Partners swing. There's some partners who swing, who have open relationships. That's a whole nother topic. When open relationship, that's another topic on another day. Open relationships, swinging, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. And that's a topic where you're gonna need some weed for sure. And some wine and weed, or you're gonna need one of the two. Because that's a topic where I feel like you need to be relaxed and unwind. Because a lot of people don't understand that this is real life. In real life, and that's why I wanted to make this upload, because I wanted people to understand that even though you can't see me talking on the internet, of course I upload my videos and my pictures and stuff like that, but this is a podcast, and all you can do is hear my voice and understand what I'm saying. If you can understand me, and mind you, I'm not going to force you to understand me. This podcast is not for people to understand me. It's not to force people to understand me. It's not to force people to agree with me. This podcast is not to force people to agree with me. It's just to show people that there are different types of people in the world. It's just to show people what goes on in my life. So that's why it's called Podcast Diaries. Because it's a podcast, and in the podcast, I document everything that I feel inside. Sometimes I even go back to my diary, and I look at my diary, and okay, this is what I talked about that day. I want to talk about it today in my podcast, depending on what it is. I don't talk about everything in my diary. There's some things that need to be left out that you guys don't need to know. But going back to the main topic, and we're going to cut it short after this because it's almost getting to 30 minutes. Yes, that's my life update, guys. That is my life update. My life update is about, just being you, being unapologetically you. Who cares about, who gives a fuck about other people's opinion? Who gives a fuck about them laughing at you? Who gives a fuck about them not believing in you? Who gives a fuck about them not liking you because you're being who you are? Who gives a fuck if people don't like you because you don't do what they want you to do? Who gives a fuck if people don't like you because you're not who they want you to be? No, this podcast is just to let you guys know that I'm human just like you. And if you've done the same things that I've done, it's okay. You're not the only person. It's okay if you don't mind sharing a man. But mind you, if you're going to share this man, make sure this man is not broke. He has to be financially stable. He needs to be mentally stable, and he needs to be intelligent. He has to have emotional intelligence, meaning he can control his emotions. He knows how to handle 2 women or however many women he wants to have. He needs to be able to satisfy us all. And then all the women that he's with need to be a certain type of woman. I'm not saying they all have to be the same. They might all have different personalities, but it all has to come down to one thing. And the one thing is this. He's our man. He needs to make us happy so we can be happy and make him happy and satisfy him. On our own time, he needs to give us all equal amount of same time. He needs to satisfy us all the same way, not just satisfying her like this because this is how you want to satisfy her because you feel this way about her, and then you satisfy her this way because this is what you feel about her. No. So yeah, this might sound kind of unconventional, but I'm just being real. I'm just being real, guys. I'm just being so real with you guys. So until the next time, catch you guys later. This is Podcast Diaries number 37, part 2. Peace.